about this guy known as Jesus? This question of who is or who was Jesus?
Have a seat. I have some questions I'd like to ask you.
What's with the light? Don't they do this in the movies for like dramatic effect or something?
I don't need any snide remarks or comments.
Easy there, Columbo. I'll answer your questions.
I just need to know, what do you know about this man named Jesus?
Well, lucky for you, I know a lot.
Like what?
Well, he was loving and gracious. He was an amazing teacher, and he made time for everyone. He cared for the hungry, the hurting, the young, the old, anyone.
Yeah, I've got pages and pages full of notes about how wonderful Jesus was.
Well, was and is.
Oh, here we go again with the was and is. Let's just stick with was. My notes tell me this guy was put to death over 2,000 years ago for the charges against him.
Well, true. He did die a gruesome death, but there's so much more.
Like what?
Well, have you heard about how he broke bread with others?
What, like sat down and had a meal with them?
Yeah, that's right.
What's so special about sitting down with a group of friends and eating?
Well, there are lots of stories about how Jesus shared meals with others.
If you think it's so special, why don't you share some stories?
So there are stories where he shares meals with, shall we say, the least likely. Like that time he invited himself to Zacchaeus' house. You remember, Zacchaeus, wee little man was he? No? Okay.
So what was the big deal with this, except he was maybe a little bit forward inviting himself into other people's homes?
Well, here's the story. Zacchaeus was a tax collector, right? He was actually the chief tax collector. People hated these guys because they were pretty much known as thieves and cheaters. Well, they were Jews that worked for the Roman government, but, well, I don't know how to say this delicately, but they were kind of skimming off the top, if you know what I mean.
So Jesus would just sit down and share a meal with these people that you wouldn't normally take to your local diner.
Exactly.
I guess that would be kind of him. What else do you have for me?
Well, there are stories where Jesus would provide a ridiculous amount of food for an even more ridiculous amount of people.
Go on.
So there are these two stories in particular. There's a story where there are over 4,000 men, along with women and children. And there's even another one where there's even more people, 5,000 some say.
What, did Jesus have a giant taco truck?
No. There were no giant barrio taco trucks in Galilee 2,000 years ago. What are you, crazy? Look, these stories are kind of similar in that Jesus would go out and teach about God, and people would come to see him. Sometimes these crowds would be huge, and he'd teach all day, of course, and by the end of the day they were hungry, so no taco truck, no coffee and donuts, no pancake breakfast, you get it. These people were hungry.
Well, what did he do?
Well, he had a few loaves of bread and a couple fish.
That's not gonna feed a crowd that big.
Oh, but it did, and guess what? There were leftovers. There were no foil swans, but they had leftovers.
Yeah, right.
It's true. I could go on and on. These aren't even the most amazing stories. But the most powerful one happened in this little upper room with just Jesus and his disciples.
It doesn't sound so amazing.
Well, it happened in Jerusalem, and it was the night of the Passover celebration.
I've heard something about that.
Well, they prepared this special meal that the Jewish people would always share every year at Passover. They had been doing this since they had been freed from slavery in Egypt. It was kind of a tradition for these people for well over 1,300 years.
Okay, traditions. I get that.
Well, this night was different. This Passover night, Jesus changed everything.
He changed everything?
Yes. When he broke bread with them, he said, "Now, this is my body."
What?
Now, stay with me here. This is important. Get your pen ready. You got to write this down. He said, "This is my body, broken for you." Then he took the cup of wine that they were going to share, and he said, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood, poured out for you."
Blood? Hey, this is getting weird.
No, not weird. Powerful and life-changing.
They were eating flesh and drinking blood?
You've seen too many movies. They were receiving Jesus and his amazing forgiveness. We're still doing this today.
Wait, you're still doing this today?
Yes.
His body? His blood? What?